Welcome to another amazing episode of For the Sake of Heaviness. I'm here as always with.
Merciful Mike.
Someday I'm going to get this right, man.
Just
It's
point
that
the
damn
opposite direction. Whichever way you think you should point, go the other way, I think. So like I'll go
always.
like
That's
that.
what
I'm pointing
it's
right
like.
now at you.
Whatever you think you should do the opposite. Is how I. That's how it's always worked my life. I've always the things I think I should do. When I do them, I've always taken the wrong path. So it's over there.
Yes, I am over here. And you are over there.
Yeah. See, you got it right because you're smarter than I am. On today's episode, we are bringing to you another episode of Keepers of the Flame. These are bands that are, well, they're keeping the flame, man.
They're
I mean,
keeping the flame.
these are your, bands that have been around like their first debut would have had to be out in 2015 or later. These are the young guns, so to speak, that are keeping metal alive, man. I mean, when people say, where are all the great metal bands at? Well, they're here.
They
You
are
have
here.
to, if you look for them, man, they're there. There's bands doing stuff that are top notch. I know we all have like age bias, what we grew up with, but these are bands that, at least for Mike and I, um, these are our personal, everyone's got bands like this that, that
For
somehow,
sure.
you when you get to be a certain age, like maybe I don't know how you are, Mike, you're probably like me, but after a certain point, it's kind of like it's harder to impress you in a
Very
lot of
much
ways
so.
because we have such a history, and it's the music that we've talked about this before. The music you grew up with is it's like sewed into the fabric of
Absolutely.
who you are. So
Yep.
as the years go on, and we try to keep up with what's going on and find new bands because the main band, the big daddies aren't going to be around
No,
forever, and I'm not going to be ready to stop listening to music just because Maiden retires or Priest
exactly.
retires or
And that's why
whatever. There's
I think that's why it's so amazing that, you see the younger generation of bands that are picking up on everything that was, laid out and blueprinted by the, so-called legacy bands, but then everything that came after that too. They take it, the building blocks and they add their own unique spin to it, but it still holds true, to the foundations and which is what you were saying, what we grew up with. And then again, like you said, it makes it so hard because you and I were in our mid 50s. We've been listening to music for our entire lives, and I've said this before too. The foundation of what you grew up on continuously steps up, and it makes meeting your expectations that much more difficult
yeah,
with every new album that comes out. Now there is a ton of good music. I'm not saying that at all, but just for, your own personal preferences and what you like and what falls in your wheelhouse, it does get harder as you age. So
yeah, for
t
sure.
take that into consideration, kiddos.
Yeah, and these are like when we do these episodes, these are bands that we think are the bands that could step up, and
Yeah.
I think these are bands that, as far as I'm concerned, you know, the bands I'm picking are bands like in my mind, like I would love to see become, I want to see every band like have success, regardless of
Oh,
whether
for
I
sure.
like them or not. But these bands have been growing,
Yeah.
it's fun to watch their growth and see them like their following develop. And these are bands I think can step up and
Yeah.
you know, um, be
I
those
think
bands that kind of fit. I don't think we're gonna have. I don't know how you feel about this, but I don't think we're gonna have like with the maybe once in a while you get an exception like Ghost or that can step up into the arenas.
sure.
I don't know that some of these bands, well, just because of the music industry, not because of the bands, like are
Right.
gonna be at that level. But certainly musically, like they're picking up the gauntlet's been thrown down
Yeah.
and they're picking it up and in a lot of cases running with it.
Absolutely.
I think and growing and doing stuff that I think is amazing.
I think it's safe to say too, the bands that you and I picked for this particular segment and will continue to do so. I think you and I both truly feel they have the stamina and longevity ahead of them. I think that's why we pick them, and that's why we see something special in them that we want everybody else out there to check them out. We strongly feel they deserve the recognition, and they're doing things right, and we want everybody to know about them.
That's right. You want
All
to
right,
kick us off there, brother?
I
Our
will. I will definitely kick us off. So my band that I am picking, and their debut album is right over here, over my shoulder. Um, I want to preface this by saying that being in the Midwest, I've lived the majority of my life right smack in the middle of Milwaukee and Chicago. I'm on the Wisconsin side. So there has been just an incredible, thrash scene in the Midwest here. As soon as the Bay Area kicked off and it spread like wildfire, every area of the country, had their thrash scene. And the Midwest has got its own unique flavor. I don't care what anybody says. And maybe it's just because of where I'm from, I can pick out a Midwest thrash band with no problem. It just has that different aura to it that makes it unique and special. And, we've been blessed in this area, at least, in my close proximity. We've had, Snow White, we've had Zoe Trope, Ambulance, Cyclone Temple, one of my all time favorite, Wrath, just an amazing pool of thrash bands in my area. So I am choosing Misfire. And these guys have taken everything that's come before them, thrown it in their pot, put their unique spin on it, and are absolutely off and running. So much so that their first album, which is right over here called Sympathy for the Ignorant, was only meant to be their demos. But the demos came out so good, if I'm collecting all my information correctly, that they pressed it and put it out as an album, and it sounds
nice.
tremendous. Now, they have that Midwest flair going for them. So good. We were talking a little bit earlier. They've got the original like Slayerisms in there, but then they've got some of the more modern things. I'm thinking of Enforcer comes to mind, but it's their own thing, and it's just so damn good. And they ebb and flow, and everything that you could actually ever want from a thrash album is here. Now, unfortunately, pre-orders don't really stand to the date anymore, or at least when I order them, I never seem to get them. So I'm going to put a picture of their brand new album right here, which came out on Friday, called Product of the Environment. And this is a much more polished album, much more professional. And there was a little bit of a lineup change. And Tim Jensen is their new singer. And I got to tell you, man, I'm going to kind of go outside our boundaries here, speaking of Midwest, but dude, he is like the schmear of Midwest thrash. He sounds amazing. And Proud to the Environment, it puts it right up at that level of like the first time that you heard like Death Angel and bands like that. It's just screaming. And they put out a couple of singles already. We Went Through Hell is one of the first videos that came out. All you gotta do is put that on, and you're gonna be like, "Oh hell yeah!" And actually, speaking of Death Angel, Rob Cavastani, he has a guest appearance on this album, as does
Oh,
Rob Dukes.
nice.
Rob Dukes from Exodus is also doing some guest vocals on here. So, Misfire is it's so much so that it's not only gained my attention, not that I'm anybody big, but they're out on tour with Exodus right now. They're on that big tour and living it up, and I'm hoping they're getting in front of just a million people because they absolutely deserve it. They stepped up their game, and it is just absolutely the best Midwest fucking thrash going right now today. So it's like I said, it's old school, it's new school. They've got a little bit of some proggy elements in there. They're all over the map with it, but they contain it into that special Midwest thrash element that I've grown to love. So you get a chance to check them out, definitely do so. Like I said, Sympathy for the Ignorant came out in 2021. The brand new one just came out May 2nd. Product of the Environment. They are out on tour with Exodus right now, and you can order the brand new album on MNRK Records. So highly, highly recommend it. You will not be disappointed. If you are a thrash fan and looking for something new, this is gonna fill that slot.
I will
Misfire.
definitely I will definitely check them out. I'm always kind of like that's like one of those thrash is one of those genres that I've always liked, but I've always found it um a little bit daunting to try to find. I check out stuff every week. Um, and I'm trying to find those bands that kind of scratch that itch for me when it
Sure.
comes to that. Because when you find a good thrash band, it's like this
Yeah.
is awesome. Like there's that certain aggression
Yep.
in there that only you can only get from that. And there's a vibe to it
Yeah.
that even death metal and black metal and stuff like that don't go beyond it and don't like hit on the
Right.
same things
And
necessarily.
like I was
So
saying too, it's every, music genre has their pockets and regions throughout. But for whatever reason, and I've always felt this too, and maybe I am a bit biased just because it's where I'm from. Midwest thrash has always just had that little bit more uh, raw edge aggressiveness to it, other than either coast. There's just something about that. So, yeah, it's Misfire is fantastic.
definitely check that out. Everyone check that shit out too.
We'll put all the
But
information and links in the description when we're all done here. Who you got?
no surprise, no surprises here. Uh, one of the bands that we talked about, Witch Hazel, last time. There's a group of bands that are quickly becoming my bands that are slipping into my all-time favorites list over the years. Witch Hazel is one of them,
Sure.
and this band has just gotten better with every record. I'm talking about London, Seven Sisters.
Yeah.
Um, man, I don't know how much to
So
what to
good.
say about these because they're just so good. Like this one just got it. Came out a couple weeks ago. I ordered directly from the band. They're on Cherry Red Records, by the way. You can get this through their Bandcamp or from the label. If you're here in the U.S., it a little tricky with shipping and stuff. But don't let it hold you back. It's worth every freaking penny. This is the latest. This is part two of a concept that they've had. Shadows of a Fallen Star. Part one was the last record, came out 4 years ago,
Yep.
and this is the latest. These guys, they started. They were right in line with the whole new wave of traditional heavy metal thing. Maiden, Priest, that kind of thing, and double guitars. Um, Angel Witch. There was some new wave of British heavy metal influence there, traditional metal, like very much like influenced by the stuff we love from the 80s, especially like
Yeah.
Maiden and stuff like that. And they've progressed with every record. Like their influences still show through for sure, but with every record, there's a little bit more personality that they've put into them. The first one was just self-titled. That came out 2016. Really good record. Again, meat and potatoes, like new wave of traditional heavy metal, just your basic traditional metal, like
Yeah.
killer stuff. But good playing. Kyle McNeil has a great voice. I'm always at a loss for word for how to describe it because he's not like he has a good range, but he doesn't do like the Dickinson Halford kind of thing that you're seeing like in that some of the other bands are like King Diamond and stuff, like he doesn't like purposely like just go for these super high notes and stuff. He has a great range, can hit higher notes. His voice is a little bit smoother. Um, I saw a description. I think maybe I can hear a little bit of Kevin Hayborn in his voice, but if Kevin like was actually like, and this isn't me bad mouthing Kevin Hayborn, I like his
No.
voice, but Kevin, doesn't come across as like an accomplished singer. I think Kyle like falls into that category of like he has kind of like the same tonal kind of things as Kevin, but like if Kevin like could actually like sing,
Right.
like
Right.
Kyle just I just love his voice.
Better too.
And it just they're just creative, and I like that with every record they've stretched themselves a little bit more in terms of their playing. Um, I think I've told this story here before, but it's worth repeating for them to get a feel for where the band is coming from because as they've gone on, they've added um, a hint more like each time progressive kind of like elements to their music. We were playing over in at Hell Over Hammerberg, and Kyle was touring with the Gates of Slumber guys
Hmm.
at the time, and he and I were talking, and he was saying that at the time that his what he would like to do with Seven Sisters was to eventually have them become, a full on prog band,
Yeah.
um, which they haven't. It hasn't become that. Luckily, luckily, I mean, they've stayed,
They stayed
you
fairly
know,
true to
um,
form. Yeah.
metal,
Yeah.
but there's definitely like more progressive elements with it,
Sure.
which is cool. And so there's a lot of, if you like Maiden, if you like Fates Warning, if you like Queensryche, especially now, like I think there's a good bit of like Queensryche in their music. First one self-titled, then Cauldron to the Cross came out in 2018. It was a
Yeah.
step up from the first one. Better writing, better playing, better sounds. Man, just some killer songs on that record. Turning of the Tide, one of my favorite Seven Sisters songs. The title track broken up over
Yeah.
two songs on the record. It's just a really good, I mean, catchy. These are records that the more you listen to them, the more you find to like about them. There's stuff
Oh my God. Yeah.
in in the albums, in the songs, that it's like you listen to it once and you're like, oh, that's cool.
Yep.
But it's like the repeated listens reveal more
Oh my God.
every
Yeah, I was just gonna
every
say
time.
that too. Yeah, reveal was the big word there. That's absolutely true. And I owe you big because these guys were on my radar, but I never really investigated all that much until you and I had a conversation. I don't know, like, last year or whatever. And then I finally pulled the trigger and I was like, what have I been missing? But yes, like you said, especially these last two, the two-parter story,
Yep.
man, every time you listen, yeah, there are new elements that are revealed every time, and it's always like that. Oh man, how did I not hear that last time? Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. Um, and so, and like Mike's talking about the last record, Shadows of the Fallen Star, Part One, Shadows of a Fallen Star. Sorry, don't thrash me too bad for that. Was killer again. It was another step up, and it was like a step up in a way that it was like where Cauldron of the Cross and the debut, you could like say, okay, they're good, they're really good. The songwriting's good, the playing's good. Um, they weren't really like, they were just coming into themselves in a way over those. You could still hear a lot of their influences, and you still can hear the influences, but like I think they really like now with Shadow of a Fallen Star have set an identity for
yeah,
themselves that sets them apart from, now you got these bands, the bands that are stepping up, that are doing things that are a little bit different than, yeah, they're not content to just be made in
right,
86 or Priest in 83 or Merciful Fate,
yeah,
um, that kind of thing. They're like stretching the boundaries of what they do. And man, it's just a freaking phenomenal record. The song Horizon's Eye, so catchy. Um, the Artifice, like awesome song, and like kind of like it's one of these things when I talk about a song revealing itself, or it's like the first time you hear a song like that, you're like, there's little things they do like time it rhythmic wise that um throw you off a
yeah,
little bit, and then every time you spin it again, you're like, oh, that's it, just it sucks you in,
yep,
and is totally like just totally catchy, and like his voice is just warm, and um man, the playing is great. Like he and Graham, phenomenal guitar work. um you got Gareth Martin on bass, Sammy Christel on drums, and Graham Farmer on guitar,
yep.
then Kyle McNeil on vocals and guitars. And then that brings us to the latest record, which is a continuation of, I don't know where the hell I put it. Oh, it's right here. It's Shadows of the Fallen Star Part 2,
Yeah,
picks up where the first one left off. I think it's
massive.
even better. Um, Man, the first time I heard Heart of the Sun, I was like, oh my God. Like I
Yeah,
remember talking to you about it when it first dropped, like, holy shit, if that's
yep.
any uh any indication, this
Indication.
might be the album of the year. I mean, that song is like full on for me, is like it's like those Maiden influences, but like Maiden from like
Yeah.
somewhere in time,
Yep.
like
Yep.
that era of Maiden, like those the double guitars. You have to listen to it. Like, go check that song out. If you're gonna start somewhere with them, you can start anywhere, really. I think, but if you really like, check
Yeah.
that song out. It's killer. And then this album. So you got the three songs on side one, which are all great. And then the fourth song, not the fourth side, the second side of the record is it's a sidelong song called Andromeda Descending, A
And
Fallen
it's
Star
nuts.
Rises.
It's nuts, man.
Yeah, it's all over the place, man. It's freaking killer. Like, and I don't mean all over the place like in like it's not cohesive. It's just like it goes through so many
Yeah.
there's so many things going on in that song and it's
That in
killer.
particular side too. I mean, if you have a chance to like literally sit with no distractions and just absorb side two of that, it man, that will take you somewhere. That is, yeah. That's such a good album. Yeah. Super,
Yep.
super good pick. And again, I owe you for finally pushing me to get on that band because I was missing out for sure.
They're off there and they're one of those bands there. It's an insta buy for me now.
Yeah.
They I'd like to I'm glad to see they're on Cherry Red
Yeah.
Records now. Seems to be I didn't even know Cherry Red until the last one came out that Cherry Red did more than reissue
Yeah.
old stuff, but it seems like their distribution's pretty good and
And growing. They seem to be growing like overnight. I've seen a lot of new things coming from Cherry Red. So yeah, I was in the same boat. I thought it was just, kind of a reissue label, but nice to see that they've got some, newer quote unquote homegrown stuff coming out too.
for sure. And it's been cool to see. I mean, I think Seven Sisters following is growing and they're just a killer band. I mean, I can't.
Agree.
I'm already waiting for I already can't wait for the next one. I'm so glad I have
Right.
four to fall back on. And then on top of that, like what Kyle did, like also on the side, is he did something called Phantom Spell, and this is like the progressive, full on like 70s
That album's
bass,
awesome too.
progressive, like still like heavy in its way, but like that's the prog thing. So it's like cool. He's kind of got these two things
Yeah.
going. I can't say enough good stuff about it. It's like these guys and Witch Hazel, and the Night Eternal and
Yep.
Sanhedrin. There are just so many bands now that are just doing such cool stuff. But definitely check out Seven Sisters. Um, you know, on Cherry Red, the latest. I'll just show it to you one more time. I know we're gonna put these graphics up, but just because I have it here, this is the latest record.
Yep.
Um, Shadows of Fallen Star Part Two. Let me show you the guitar pick fell out of it. That was really cool. It came with a guitar
Yeah.
pick. It's gonna look at it, freaking
Look at that
great.
artwork.
Like just spread out on the inside. I think the oh yeah, I love this too. Like there's stuff falling out everywhere because there's extra
Yep. Oh,
like the
cool.
like that the dudes there drawn up. Like it's
Love
just
it. Love it.
they're killer, man. Everything about these guys is pro. Like go see them live. If you're in Europe and they're playing anywhere close, please go see them. I haven't gotten to see them live yet, but I've watched video because I can't.
Yeah.
I'm too impatient to wait for them to come to the United States and for me to get over there and go see them. Um, Definitely check them out. Seven Sisters, phenomenal band. One of the best bands that if you haven't heard of them, you need to.
Yep.
And I mean that
I agree.
sincerely.
I agree 100%. 100%. All right. Well, there you
So
have it. Our latest segment for Keepers of the Flame. Check out Misfire. Check out Seven Sisters. We'll put all the pertinent information in the description of today's video. And if you are enjoying all of these and you have suggestions, please dump them in the comments. We're always
yes, let us
looking for
know,
new
man.
stuff to check out. We're always looking, we're listening to you. So tell us, please.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, hip us all, man. Like the people reading the comments will check them out. I mean, let's help these bands. Like, let's help them like move up, and
Definitely.
because we need bands to go see and to support. Like, go out and support them because there's a lot of talent out there.
There is, without a doubt. So, all right. Thank you again for joining us. Make sure that if you've reached this point that you like and
Subscribe.
subscribe.
Smash it.
Smash it. And we
Smash
will
that
see
button.
you. We'll see everybody again on the next episode of
For the
For the
sake
Sake
of
of
heaviness.
Heaviness.